The sale in chains. The market was loud. Voices shouted. Whips cracked. Chains rattled. In the center, under a rusted metal roof, stood a wooden platform. Slaves were lined up like broken toys. Each one had a number. Each one had a price. Among them stood a girl, small, dirty, and shaking. She was alien, with gray-blue skin and large glowing eyes that once held wonder. Now they only showed fear. Her thin arms were wrapped in chains. Her feet were bare and cracked. Her clothes were torn rags. The metal collar around her neck dug into her skin. No one knew her name. Not even she remembered it anymore. She had been sold too many times. Lot 47, the auctioneer shouted. Half price. Young, quiet, healthy. Well, mostly. Perfect for hard work or personal pleasure. The crowd laughed. She stared at the ground, not moving, not speaking. A few men walked closer. One kicked her leg. Another pulled her chain and looked into her eyes. She didn't fight, she didn't scream, she had learned not to. Too small, one man grunted. Too weak, said another. She's not worth the collar she's wearing. Someone jeered. Still she stood, silent, waiting for the next pain. Then the crowd grew quiet. Footsteps echoed. A human walked toward the platform. He was not like the others. Older, taller, wrapped in a thick coat. Dust covered his boots, and his face was rough with lines of age and tired eyes. He looked directly at her. Her heart jumped. She had heard stories. Humans were cruel. They liked to break things. They took slaves for the worst reasons. And this one? He looked serious. Cold. Maybe even angry. Lot 47, the auctioneer said again, smiling wide. No one wants her. You look like a man who can handle her. The man said nothing. He took out a single silver coin and flipped it to the auctioneer. Sold, the auctioneer laughed. To the brave human with simple taste. The girl didn't move as he walked up the steps and unhooked her chain from the pole. She didn't resist as he led her away through the crowd. She walked like a ghost, her eyes empty. This is it, she thought. The real pain comes now. They walked in silence through the muddy town. Rain started to fall, cold, heavy. Her teeth chattered, but she didn't complain. She had learned not to. But then something strange happened. The man stopped. He took off his coat and wrapped it around her shoulders. Her eyes widened. It was warm, heavy. It smelled like earth and firewood. She didn't know what to do. No one had ever given her anything before, not without wanting something back. She looked up at him. He didn't meet her eyes, he just kept walking. What is this? She wondered. Why isn't he hurting me? Why give me warmth? They reached a small vehicle, old, dusty, but working. He helped her in gently. She waited for a slap. Nothing came. The road was long and quiet. Trees passed by. Mountains in the distance. She looked out the window, unsure if she was heading toward safety or something worse. Soon they arrived at a small wooden cabin on a hill. Smoke came from the chimney. It smelled like soup. He opened the door. Inside, he said in a calm voice. She stepped in slowly, scared. There were no cages, no chains on the walls, no blood, just soft light, warm wood, a bed in the corner, and a blanket folded neatly. He walked to a shelf, pulled out a small box, and placed it on a table. You're hurt, he said. This will help. She didn't move. Sit, he said again, not louder but gentler. Still shaking, she sat. He handed her a bowl of hot soup. She stared at it. He didn't force her. He didn't touch her. Just sat across from her, in silence. Minutes passed. Then finally she raised the spoon. The soup was warm. Her hands were cold, but her stomach growled. She ate. Tears slid down her face. Not because it hurt, but because for the first time in a long, long time, it didn't. She looked at the man again. He didn't smile. He didn't talk. He just watched the fire in the fireplace. Who are you? She wondered. And why did you save me? She didn't ask. Not yet. But deep inside her shattered heart, something Small flickered. Hope. The room was quiet. Too quiet. The alien girl sat on the edge of the bed, the human man's coat still around her shoulders. She stared at the wooden walls, the soft light from a lamp, the fire crackling in the fireplace across the room. This was not a cell. There were no iron bars, no locks on the door, no chains. But she didn't feel safe. Her fingers clutched the spoon he gave her. The soup had warmed her belly, but not her heart. She had been sold too many times, hurt too many times. Kindness was often a trick. She knew that. She looked toward the window. Outside, the wind howled. He had not locked the door. He didn't even tell her to stay. Still, she didn't run. Her legs were weak, and her heart was confused. This man was a mystery. A human, strong, silent, older than others. She had expected beatings, commands, coldness. Instead, he gave her space, food, his coat, and silence. That scared her more than any whip. The man stood across the room now, facing away from her. He placed firewood into the hearth. His movements were slow but calm. "You can sleep here," he said, still not looking at her. "No one will bother you." She didn't reply. He walked to the small kitchen, poured himself water, and took a sip. Then, without another word, he opened the door to the other room and stepped inside. Click. The door shut softly behind him. She was alone. Truly alone. The fire crackled. Her eyes scanned the room again. A soft bed, a folded towel, a bar of soap, a small shelf with old books, and something more, a knife. A kitchen blade left near the wooden counter. She stood up. Her bare feet touched the warm floor as she moved slowly, silently, like a shadow. She reached the knife. Her hand trembled as she picked it up. If he tried anything, she would fight. Even if she died, she would not be a toy again. Not for anyone. She took the knife back to the bed, hid it under the pillow, then sat. Time passed slowly. She didn't blink. Her ears listened for footsteps, for chains, for anything. But there was only the wind, only the fire. Her body, tired from weeks of pain, began to relax. But her mind didn't. She lay down on the bed, coat still wrapped around her thin frame. She closed her eyes. But sleep didn't come. Memories flashed. Hands pulling her hair. Boots kicking her ribs. Cold floors, empty bowls. The sharp sting of electricity on skin. Faces laughing while she screamed. She opened her eyes again. Tears rolled down silently. Just then, a sound, not from outside, from the other room. She held her breath. Was he coming? No. It was soft. A cough. Then silence. She sat up. Carefully, she walked to the door of his room. She leaned close. Listened. Breathing. Steady. Heavy. Then, a whisper. His voice. "Lena." Her eyes widened. Who was Lena? She stepped back. Something inside her burned with questions. Who was he? Why had he bought her? Why hadn't he touched her? Was he hiding something? Was Lena another slave? Or someone he had lost? She didn't understand. She returned to her bed. Her fingers touched the hidden knife again. But she didn't hold it this time. Instead, she looked around at the room. So soft, so quiet. It felt like a dream, a cruel dream that would soon break. And yet, part of her wanted to believe it was real. She whispered, "Why?" No one answered. But the fire flickered gently. The wind calmed. She lay down again. This time she closed her eyes and her body didn't fight sleep. The next morning, sunlight poured into the cabin. Birds chirped outside. She blinked, confused. She had not slept this peacefully in years. Then she remembered the man. She stood up and opened the door carefully. The other room was empty. His bed was neatly made. The smell of cooked food reached her nose. Her stomach growled. She stepped out. The man stood near the stove wearing a clean shirt now. He looked at her and nodded. "You slept." She nodded back slowly. He pointed to the table. "You should eat." She sat. He placed a plate of eggs and bread in front of her. Hot tea, too. He didn't sit. He just leaned against the wall and sipped his tea. No questions. No demands. Just quiet. She finally spoke, her voice rough. "Why did you buy me?" He looked at her. Calm. Honest. Because no one else would. She stared. "That's not a reason," she whispered. He smiled, just a little. "It's the only one I have." She looked at her food, then at him, and for the first time, something deep inside her shifted. She no longer held the knife. She no longer felt like an object. She felt human. The girl sat near the window, holding the cup of tea in both hands. The warmth helped her fingers stop shaking. Sunlight touched the wooden floor. The fire from last night had died, but the cabin still held its heat. She watched a few birds hop across the porch outside. The world felt peaceful, too peaceful. She kept glancing over at him. The man. He moved quietly around the cabin, washing dishes, wiping the table, chopping vegetables. His steps made no noise. His face stayed calm. He did not stare at her or give orders. He just lived and let her exist beside him. It confused her. It scared her. She remembered a time long ago when she had lived with her mother, before the slavers came, before she was branded, sold, used, and sold again. Back then, she had sat beside a window just like this, holding a warm drink, hearing the wind in the trees. This place felt the same. That made her chest hurt. He looked up at her suddenly. "You like soup?" She blinked. "Yes," she said quietly, surprised by her own voice. He gave a small nod and returned to cutting vegetables. She stared harder now, watching his hands. They were large, rough, and scarred. Not the scars of violence, but the kind from work. A worker's hands, not a torturer's. Still, she could not trust yet. Not fully. That night, he served soup. A thick one, full of roots and beans and wild herbs. He placed the bowl in front of her, then stepped back, letting her eat first. She stared at the bowl. It smelled good. Her stomach growled, but old fear gripped her heart. What if it was drugged? What if he waited for her to eat before hurting her? She picked up the spoon slowly. He saw her hands tremble. Then quietly he sat across from her and took a bite from his own bowl. She paused. He chewed, swallowed, then waited. No smile. No pressure. Just a man eating dinner. She lowered her spoon into the soup and brought it to her lips. It tasted real. Warm. Soft. Filling. She took another spoonful. Then another. He watched her, but not like others had. His eyes were not full of hunger or cruelty. They were tired, but not cruel. When she finished half the bowl, he stood up again and placed something beside her. A small wooden box. She looked at him, confused. "Open it," he said gently. She did. Inside was a jar of healing cream, a roll of clean bandages and soft cloths. "I saw the cuts on your back," he said. "If you let me, I can help." Her body froze. "No!" she shouted, louder than she meant to. Her voice cracked. Her hands covered her back. He didn't move. He didn't speak. He just set the box down and stepped away. "I'm sorry," he said, softly. "I didn't mean to scare you." Tears burned her eyes. Her body remembered everything. The chains, the burn marks, the stinging shock collars, the people who laughed as they made her scream. She backed away from him, shaking her head, whispering, "Don't touch me, don't." "I won't," he said. "You don't have to do anything you don't want." He walked to the fire and sat on the floor, letting her cry in peace. Minutes passed, then hours. She didn't remember when she stopped crying, but she noticed something strange. He didn't come closer. He didn't ask questions. He just sat, staring, into the fire like it held answers. She watched his profile, his tired face, the tiny line above his brow that deepened when he was thinking. He looked more broken than dangerous. Later, while he cleaned the dishes, she noticed something sticking out of the drawer near the kitchen, a folded piece of paper. When he stepped outside to bring more firewood, she moved quickly, opened the drawer, pulled out the letter. The paper was old, a little torn. She unfolded it. The words were handwritten in neat lines. "Lena, I'm sorry I wasn't there when you needed me. I failed you, but I won't fail again. If I can help one soul, just one, maybe I can breathe again. Marcus." Her heart skipped a beat. Lena, failed, one soul. She folded the letter back up with shaking hands. Was she the one soul he meant? Who was Lena? She didn't know. But the pain in those words felt real, heavy. When he came back inside, she was already sitting at the table. The letter was back where it was. He looked at her. She didn't mention it. He didn't either. That night, she didn't hide the knife under her pillow. She kept the healing cream close instead. And before she closed her eyes, she whispered her name to herself, just to remember she still had one. Morning light slid through the wooden window slats. The alien girl woke slowly, wrapped in the thick blanket. Her back still hurt, but her body didn't feel cold anymore. The pain was dull now, not sharp. That surprised her. For the first time in a long while, she had slept through the night. The room was quiet, peaceful. She sat up, her hands touching the soft blanket, then her side where the bruises used to sting the most. She had used the healing cream. Just a little. It worked. She still didn't understand why he gave it to her, why any of this was happening. She stood, walked carefully to the door and stepped out. The cabin smelled like herbs and firewood. She saw him, Marcus, sitting at the table writing something in a notebook. He looked up when she entered, gave her a slight nod. "Morning," he said. "Morning," she replied softly. He stood, poured her tea, then stepped away. The same rhythm, the same quiet, no commands, no loud noises. After she sat, she spoke again. "Who is Lena?" He froze. His hands paused at the stove. The kettle hissed. She saw something flicker in his eyes. Pain. He didn't answer right away. Instead, he placed the kettle back, poured hot water into a second mug, and handed it to her. Then he sat. "My daughter," he said finally, his voice low, rough. "She died 5 years ago." The girl looked down. "I'm sorry." He shook his head. "Not your fault." She wanted to ask more, but stayed quiet. He stared at the fire for a moment, then added, "I wasn't there for her. I was too late. I thought I had more time." She swallowed hard. He looked at her again. "I don't want to fail again. That's why I bought you. Not to own you, not to use you, just to save someone. This time." Her heart beat faster. Save someone? She had never been called someone worth saving before. She reached for the cup, held it tightly, and stared into the steam. There was silence for a while. Then she said, "I read the letter." He didn't look surprised. "You needed to know," he said. "I figured you'd find it." She felt her throat tighten. The letter had sounded like a goodbye. "You want to die?" she asked. He shook his head. "I want to live. But living means doing something right, at least once." His voice was steady, but there was sadness deep in it. A man who had already accepted his guilt. "I'm not your daughter," she whispered. "I know," he replied. "And I don't want you to be." She looked up. "I just want you to be you," he said. "That's enough." A strange warmth filled her chest. It wasn't love, it wasn't comfort. It was something different. Respect. No one had ever said she was enough. Not without expecting something. She stood up, walking to the counter. He stepped aside as she began cutting the bread. He watched, then smiled slightly. "You're helping?" "I can," she replied. They shared breakfast quietly. Later, as he stepped out to gather water from the stream, she moved to the drawer again. She didn't touch the letter. Not this time. Instead, she placed a folded cloth inside, her way of saying, "I understand now." That afternoon, he showed her the garden. It was small but full of life. Tiny fruit trees, green leaves, flowers she didn't recognize. He gave her a small shovel. "If you want. You don't have to." She nodded and got to work beside him. At first, the silence was heavy, but slowly it turned warm. She dug. He watered. They didn't talk much, but the ground between them felt softer now. When the wind picked up, she reached up to hold her hair in place. Her sleeve lifted, revealing old burn marks on her arm. She saw him glance. His jaw tightened, but he said nothing. She expected questions, but none came. Instead, he reached for a small plant, handed it to her, and said, "This one is strong. Even when it's cut, it grows back." She took it in her hands, carefully placing it into the earth. Later, she sat on the porch watching the sky turn orange. He brought her a small wooden box. "What is this?" she asked. "It was Lena's," he said. "You don't have to take it. I thought maybe you could use it." She opened it slowly. Inside was a necklace made of stone and thread. Simple, hand-carved. She held it up. It felt warm in her hand. "I can't. You don't owe me anything," he interrupted. "It's just a gift." Her voice shook. "No one ever gave me a gift before." He nodded. "Then this is your first." She placed it around her neck. It didn't feel like chains. It felt like choice. That night, as the stars came out and the cabin lights dimmed, she didn't sleep with the knife. She didn't check the door. She simply lay down, holding the necklace, and, for the first time since she was taken from her people, she believed she might have a future. Rain fell like soft music from the sky. The trees whispered, and the muddy path glistened under the cloudy light. The air smelled of wet earth and leaves. The alien girl stood on the porch, staring out at the forest. Drops splashed across her bare feet. But she didn't move. She just watched the falling rain. Behind her, Marcus stepped outside, pulling his coat over his shoulders. "Want to walk?" he asked. She hesitated, then nodded. He offered her a long scarf. She wrapped it around her neck slowly, as if unsure if it was real. It felt soft, like safety. They walked down the narrow trail beside the house, away from the cabin, away from the pain that used to live inside her. The trees stood tall and quiet. Rain dripped from the leaves like tears. They walked in silence for a while. She didn't know where he was taking her, but for once she didn't feel afraid. Then out of nowhere, she whispered, "You could have left me." Marcus looked at her. "I didn't want to." "Why?" He paused. "You remind me of what I failed to protect." She looked down. The necklace around her neck, the one from Lena's box, swayed slightly as she walked. "Do I really remind you of her?" she asked. "No," he said gently. "You remind me of me." She blinked. "What?" He smiled faintly. "I know what it feels like to lose everything, to be hurt, to feel useless. You're not the only one carrying scars." The girl looked at him. Really looked. For the first time without fear. His eyes were full of quiet grief, not rage. His voice was steady, not sharp. This was a man broken, but still standing. They reached a small hill. From there, the valley stretched out below them. Rain covered everything in silver mist. He pointed. "Down there's a town not far. We'll need supplies soon." She froze. "A town?" He saw her fear and nodded slowly. "I'll go alone." "You don't have to come." But she was already shaking her head. If they see me, they'll call me property. They won't see you, he said. I'll keep you hidden. But if someone follows you back? He didn't answer. That silence said everything. She turned away from the view. The past came flooding back, being chased, tied down, sold, locked in dark rooms. Do you think they'll stop? She asked. Marcus didn't lie. No, people like that don't stop. Then what's the point? She said, her voice cracking. Why save me if I'm still hunted? He stepped closer, because saving you is still the right thing to do. A lump formed in her throat. He continued, I can't fix the galaxy, but I can protect you for as long as I breathe. The wind picked up. Rain slid down her cheeks like tears. She didn't answer. Instead, she leaned against him, not out of weakness, but choice. They stood like that for a long moment, two souls carrying wounds, trying to heal in silence. Then, above them, a low hum. Her eye shot up, a patrol ship, sleek, gray, cold. It moved slowly above the trees, scanning. Her heart pounded. She gripped Marcus's coat. They're looking, she whispered. They're always looking. Marcus took her hand. We have to go. Now. They ran back toward the cabin, feet slipping in the mud. The rain made it hard to see, but Marcus knew the way. She followed, lungs burning. The patrol ship circled. A red light swept across the ground. Too close. She stumbled. Marcus caught her, pulled her up and ran harder. They reached the cabin just as the ship passed over. Inside, he shut the door, locked it, pulled the curtains, and turned off the lights. They crouched by the fireplace, listening. The ship hovered. She gripped his arm, tightly. If they find me, she began. They won't, he said. You're not going back. But I'll fight, he said, even if it kills me. His voice was steady, not loud, just firm. She looked into his eyes and saw no fear, only promise. The ship passed, slowly, then moved on. Silence returned. Only the rain stayed behind. She didn't let go of his arm. He didn't pull away. For the first time, she believed his words. He wasn't her owner. He was her shield. That night, she didn't cry. She sat by the fire, dry now, watching the flames dance. He handed her a blanket. She took it, then gently placed it over him. He raised an eyebrow. You always give, she said. Let me give something back. He smiled faintly and said nothing. Because sometimes, silence means everything. The days after the patrol ship passed were quiet. Too quiet. The alien girl didn't sleep well anymore. She listened to every sound, every breeze, every creak of wood, every crack in the fire. Marcus acted normal. He chopped firewood, cooked meals, cleaned tools. But she noticed how often he glanced at the sky, how his hand sometimes hovered near, the old rifle on the wall. Something was coming, and it came on the fourth morning. They heard boots first, 5 pairs, crunching the wet dirt outside. Then voices, loud, cold, military. Marcus was pouring tea when he stopped mid-motion, his eyes locked with hers. He whispered one word, hide. Her heart dropped. He pointed to the small trapdoor near the kitchen. She had never noticed it before. It led to a crawl space, dark, narrow, hidden beneath the floor. He pulled the rug aside, lifted the door, and helped her in quickly. She slid down into the shadows. The wood closed above her. Silence. Then, knocking. No, not knocking, pounding. Open up, human citizen Marcus Wynn. By order of the Interplanet Patrol. She held her breath. Marcus opened the door. I'm Marcus, he said calmly. We have reports of illegal property in this area. A soldier barked. Alien slave escaped. Gray-blue skin, possibly dangerous. I haven't seen anyone, Marcus replied. Footsteps. Heavy. Entering the house. She crouched lower in the dark. Dust filled her nose. Her body shook. She hugged her knees, barely breathing. She could hear everything. "We'll search," another soldier said. Drawers opened. Furniture shifted. Dishes clattered. "Just me here," Marcus said. "Lies. Kind ones. Risky ones." A soldier spoke again, this time mocking. "Living alone out here? You hiding a pet?" Laughter. A crash. A chair overturned. Then silence. A new voice. Lower, sharper. "You're too calm, Marcus, like someone with something to protect." "I protect my own peace," he answered. "Please stop," she thought. "Don't make them angry." But it was too late. A punch, a grunt. She flinched, heard Marcus fall. Then, another hit, and another. "We'll keep hitting until you talk," the soldier growled. "I've got nothing to say," Marcus muttered. "Stop," she wanted to scream. Blood dripped between the floorboards. She saw it. Warm, red, real. "He's hurting because of me." Boots moved again. "Check under the floor," one man said suddenly. Her heart stopped. A pause. Then, a shout from outside. "Sir, patrol ship found fresh prints in the woods. Could be hers." The men inside froze. "We'll search outside first," the leader said. "But if we come back..." Another punch. "And find you lied, old man, you're done." She heard the door slam. Boots faded. She stayed still. She counted to 50, then 100. Only then did she push open the trapdoor. Marcus lay on the floor, his face bloodied, lip split, eye bruised. She rushed to him. "Marcus, I'm okay," he whispered. "You're not," she cried. "They beat you because of me." He touched her hand. "They didn't take you. That's all that matters." She wiped his face with trembling fingers. "You could have given me up." "I couldn't," he whispered. "Not after everything." Tears burned her eyes. She had seen many humans, cold ones, violent ones, but Marcus was different. He bled for her, not because she was his, but because she was not. That night, she didn't let him cook. She cleaned his wounds. She made tea. She brought blankets. He smiled weakly as she sat beside him near the fire. "You're strong," he whispered. "I was weak," she replied. "No," he said. "You just needed someone to remind you what strength looks like." She held his hand. "Tomorrow they might come back," she said. "And next time they'll bring more." He nodded. "I won't hide again," she said firmly. "If they hurt you again, I'll fight." He looked into her eyes, not as a slave, not as a stranger, as someone who had finally found her will. "You're not mine," he said. "You're free to go." "I know," she whispered. "But I'm still here." She didn't run, didn't hide, because this time she chose to stay. The fire crackled softly in the cabin. Marcus slept in the chair, his face still bruised, one arm resting over his chest. His breathing was slow but steady. The alien girl sat across from him, staring into the flames. Her hands were still, but her thoughts moved fast. They'll return. And next time, they won't just search. She looked down at the necklace around her neck, the one from Lena's box. She held it gently between her fingers. It had become more than just a gift. It was her reminder that she wasn't nothing anymore. She stood and walked to the window. Outside, the night was calm. Stars peeked through the dark clouds, but calm didn't mean safe. She turned back to Marcus. He gave me his safety, his home, his trust. He never asked for anything in return, but she couldn't keep hiding. By morning, Marcus had woken up. His eye was swollen shut, but he tried to sit straight when he saw her. "You should rest more," she said. "I've rested enough," he replied. She brought him water and helped him sit properly. Then for a moment she stood in front of him without speaking. Finally, she said, "I want to leave." His face didn't change, but his heart broke just a little. "Of course," he said. "You're free." "I'm not leaving you," she added. I'm leaving to protect you. He looked confused. I can't stay hidden forever, she continued. I've seen what they'll do to you, and I won't let it happen again. Marcus opened his mouth to argue, but stopped. She wasn't asking, she was deciding. You said I'm free, she said. Then let me do this. He sighed and nodded. Where will you go? To the town, she said. Not to surrender, but to show them I'm not what they think. It's too dangerous. Maybe. But I'm not weak anymore. He stared at her for a long moment, then reached behind the table and pulled something out. A small metal tag with numbers and wires. A tracker, he said. It was inside your collar before I removed it. If they find you again, they'll use it. She took it, walked outside, and threw it into the fire pit until it sparked, hissed, and burned away. No more chains, she said quietly. She walked to town 2 hours later, alone. The rain had cleared, but the roads were muddy. Her scarf was tight around her neck. The necklace rested over her heart. Her steps were small but sure. People stared when she entered the market square. Whispers followed. That's the one from the posters. She escaped. Why is she walking free? Guards turned their heads. She walked straight to the patrol station. When the doors opened, a tall officer looked up. Name? He barked. I don't have one, she said. But I came to speak. He laughed. Aliens like you don't speak unless told. She didn't flinch. Then listen. He narrowed his eyes. You have no rights. You're escaped property. I'm not property, she said. I'm a person. Who sent you? No one. I came myself, because I won't let another innocent man suffer because of me. He laughed again. You think words will change laws? No, she said, stepping forward, her voice stronger. But the way you treat people will. Other guards looked on now, quiet. I was sold, beaten, starved, she said. But the one being you call human? He fed me, protected me, healed me. Because he bought you. No, she said firmly. Because he believed I was worth saving. The officer growled. You belong in chains. Then chain me, she said, raising her arms. He froze. She didn't move. Do it. In front of all these people, show them what you are. The silence was thick. No one moved. Finally, an older guard stepped forward. His voice was softer. Let her go. What? She's not dangerous. Look at her. She came here on her own, but she's more human than half the men here. The officer scoffed and walked away. The girl stood still, breathing hard. Someone clapped. Then another. Small, quiet, but real. She walked back that evening, tired, wet, but proud. Marcus stood on the porch. When he saw her, his eyes widened. She walked straight to him and said, They didn't chain me. You went alone? I had, too. He looked at her differently now. She was not the broken creature he had rescued. She was standing tall. She was choosing her path, and she had chosen to return. She stepped closer. I don't want to be saved anymore. He blinked. No? She smiled. Now I want to live. He said nothing, just opened the door for her. She entered the cabin not as a guest, not as a slave, but as herself. Free. That night, as they sat beside the fire again, she placed her hand over his. I don't know what tomorrow brings, she said. Neither do I, he answered. But today, she whispered, freedom isn't just a word. He nodded, and they watched the flames together. No chains, no collars, no fear. Just two souls finally at peace.